Oh boy, oh boy. So, I have a lot to say about this game. So, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5. Now, I had just got done playing this a few hours ago as I did a Halloween stream for this game. This was supposed to be my game I played for Halloween. Now, this was supposed to be an all-day stream, but I had to stop it 4 hours in because I had gotten sick of the game. Like, I was sick of this game. And I don't mean that in the good Tony Hawk sick mode. I'm meaning this game made me sick. The chat, when I played, the chat was bored. My friend who I had on commentary with me was bored. And I have a lot of things to say about this game. And it's going to probably take me a while. So let me just start right now. So, right from the get-go, the first hour, I'd say, the first level, you pretty much have seen all of the game. So, this game rehashes all of its content over and over and over again. So if you play the first level, the barracks, and you do all the missions, then congratulations, you have finished the game. Because every mission in this game is just a rehash of the same old missions over and over again. You go to the next level, oh, Mega Part, you high score, big head mode, grind, do a manual, do what Tony says, do the tricks that Tony says, mess with some balls, and you got it. And it's the same thing over and over again. Like, it gets boring. After the once I got to the second level, I wanted to stop it there. Because I really was not having fun with this game. And there's just so many other problems that I could explain all day. Because this game is littered with nothing but issues across the board. Every category, this game fails. If this game was an exam, it would fail in all regards. From 0 to 100, this game couldn't even hit the numerical section. There are very few positives of the game. Very few. I guess I'll name them off. To be fair, I'll start off with some positives. When I put the game in the PS4, it turned on. It kind of works. And I guess I could say it looks like a Tony Hawk game, but it feels and plays nothing like it. So I guess I'll transition right into gameplay, which is really where I'm going to spend most of my time, because this game is such a failure from the Tony Hawk series that I don't even understand how this got out. Because this game feels nothing like an old Tony Hawk game. And the developers just straight up, I don't know what was going on with Robomoto. But I remember seeing this interview at E3, and one of the developers was like, oh, I was a huge Tony Hawk fan, and this game feels exactly like the originals. I don't know what crack that guy was smoking, but this really does not feel like a Tony Hawk pro skater. Like, to give some background, I've been playing the Tony Hawk series since #1. I've played every game in the series for the most part, from Pro Skater to American Wasteland to Proving Grounds. That was my last Tony Hawk game. And I generally know how the games play. They have a very free roaming kind of feel. It has a lot of flow to it. Like, the game's got some speed. It has this flow, and it just feels right. Like, it doesn't feel clunky. And they're still fun games to play. I can still hop in my copy of Pro Skater 3 and play it any day. It's still fun. But the biggest problem is that this feels clunky. Like, just playing it, the first 5 minutes I played this game on stream, I knew the feel was off. Like, you can see the videos on YouTube and you can kind of see, alright, it doesn't look that smooth. But playing it is another thing entirely, because playing this game, it feels like something is holding you back. It just feels rough. Like you know when a game feels right. It just has that feel of it. Like, it's fun to control and it's fun to go around. This does not feel fun. Like, it feels very awkward at times. And speaking of awkward, I guess I should transition into the controls. Because there are certain things that they've changed about the controls that just leave me baffling at the reasoning behind any of these changes. So a big one that was changed is there's this new addition to the game called the drop, where if you hold down triangle, you will drop just straight to the ground. Now, I don't understand the reasoning behind this. Now, it could have been used in a different way, and maybe it would be alright. But the biggest problem is that they tied the drop button to the grind button. So at times, you'll try and grind, and you'll drop, and it drops your combo, and you really do not get used to it. Like, I kind of got a hang of it, but I still occasionally at times will hit that stupid drop button, and it'll drop a grind. And it just feels awkward because it's tied to triangle, and the way to do it is you hold down triangle. And the reason why this is so bad is because in every Tony Hawk game, I'm sure for many players, when you would grind or you would jump, you would hold down triangle before you grind because it automatically would go straight into it. And after getting used to that all these years, having to like watch out, you're gonna end up doing the drop. Like many times when I first started playing it, the first few hours, I was still just doing that drop when I didn't want to because I'm so used to how the old games played. And that's really the biggest thing, is if you play the old games, it really messes with you. It's even worse. Like it's a bad game for like anyone casually playing it because it just isn't a very fun game to play and just doesn't feel complete. But if you played all the games, it's even worse because you know how they play and you know you have a certain just like, alright, I know this, and it just feels very foreign. And a few other things that they changed. So, tricks. A lot of tricks are missing. So, say goodbye to manual tricks. Those are gone. Lip tricks. Those are gone too. And manual tricks. Everything is gone. The only way to do these tricks is you have to activate your special bar. And special bar got screwed up too. In this change, I really am trying to put the pieces together why this was added. So for special, as you're doing combos, of course, you build up your special bar and you can use it. In the previous games, you have it up your points and let you do special moves. And it worked well because in the old games, you would get it and it would automatically activate. And even better, in the Underground series, you could activate it at any time. So you could be in a combo, then decide to activate it when you're at a pivotal point that would be useful. But in this, and I don't understand why, the only way to activate your special is you actually have to drop out of a combo. So you could be in a huge combo, and if you want to activate special, you actually have to drop out of that combo, then activate it. Tell me that makes no sense whatsoever. You have to drop out of your combo to activate special. Like, that one makes no sense. Like, what reasoning is it behind it? Like, why can't you just activate it at will? Like, just, you get your special bar, and you use it. That makes perfect sense. And the thing is, the special bar, like, you really have to use, because you get, of course, you get more points, and some of these missions, you really need it. And the worst thing is, all of the special moves are tied to it now. So, when you do the special meter, you just automatically, all your tricks turn into special moves. So all your flip tricks, all your grabs, all your manuals, grinds, they all become the special tricks. So all the variety of the gameplay and doing the different tricks and coming up with variations, all that's gone because it's all tied to special and there's no really memorization of anything now. It's just automatically done. So you just have standard manual, standard lip, and whatnot. Oh boy, and I'm just scratching the surface. Now, I'm not actually playing the game right now. This is actually a second take. Believe me, the first take was even more into this. So I guess I'll take a break for this right now and talk about some of the stuff going on the screen. So I've been out of the skating world for a bit, so my knowledge of the newer skaters is very, very low. I kind of stopped around 2008, 2009. But there are only 2 skaters I really know in this game, so I mostly just stuck with Tony. Now, how this game handled its customizable skater, I'm really baffled. So you have one slot for a customizable skater, and it's pretty much a second slot for Lil Wayne, as he's one of the skaters in this game. I didn't play as him. But you have your customizable skater, and all the features are gone. You can't do anything with these customizable skaters. You can't name them. You can't give them an age. You can't affect the height, the weight, nothing. You can't even change the head or face. All that's gone. You can only pick from pre-built heads. And none of them are really good from what I've seen. There are very few that are like, alright, that's pretty interesting, but not really. Like, you can't pick your clothing, you can't change your shirt, you can't change the color, you can't make your own board. Everything is gone. And it's even worse. Because think back to Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4. Think of any of the Underground games. Look at all those customization options you had. You had hundreds of shirts. You had a bunch of pants, socks. You could customize the color of everything. If you wanted to make like a really, really albino guy, you could do it. If you wanted to make a blue dude, you could. If you wanted your hair a certain way, you could change all of that. How is it that Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4, like almost 2 decades later, has more features than Tony Hawk 5? That doesn't make any sense. Like, how do you have more content in the older game than the newer one? It should be the opposite. And you think it wouldn't be hard to mess up the customizable skaters, but they somehow managed to do it. Like, I don't even understand. Like, where is this stuff? How come I can't make customizable skaters? But even then, it doesn't really matter because you really aren't going to be playing this game long enough to even want to make a customizable skater or get the elements to make even more. Like, you really aren't going to be playing that long. Ugh. And this game has the most weirdest choice. Before the game came out, they were toting this feature called free skate mode. So pretty much in any of these levels you join, it puts you into this lobby with other skaters that, oh, you can go with these other skaters, you can skate around, have this free skate environment. Which sounds like a good idea on paper, but in the game, it's executed so poorly. Because in the end, usually the other players are just standing around awkwardly because they're doing missions or they didn't load in. So in the beginning, you usually have like 4 or 5 players just standing around awkwardly, not doing anything. And of the skaters that are actually in there, it's really just, they're just really getting in your way. So it really doesn't work. And if you don't have PlayStation Plus, then good luck, because you have to always go to a private game, because the default option will send you to the PlayStation Plus screen, which I just found out earlier, which doesn't make any sense. But what really doesn't make sense, and this one is before you even put the game on. So the game on disc is 2 gigs, which is extremely small for a game. And what soon happened is that there was a day 1 patch for this game. And this day 1 patch included the full game. So if you get the game day 1 and you don't update the patch, all you can do is customize a skater. No, you can do tutorial and you can create a park. That is it. You can't play any of the levels. They are not included. You have to download the 7 gigabyte day 1 patch that includes the game. Tell me that is not the most ridiculous thing you have ever heard. Like, the game wasn't finished? Like, how come they couldn't put it on the actual disc? And it's going to make things harder, because I'm thinking more 20, 30 years later. Because, you know, at a certain point, they're going to shut the servers off for the PS4. And at that point, if you can't download the patch, then you can't play the game. Unless they ever get to the point where they make a version of the game physical that lets you actually play everything on it. But that's not going to get to that point. An even bigger question, are people going to be playing this game 30 years from now? I believe that's a no. Will there be people playing this game 3 days from now? The game, when I played it, there were very, very few players online playing it. As I'm sure most people have given up or sold their copies. Like, it's very apparent. You can really tell by the trophy list, because that really shows you how much people got through the game. And it's funny that the first level, like, doing the tutorial is the most common, and beating the first level to unlock the second is actually kind of like a very rare. Because most people give up after the first level. They just get tired of the monotony of it. And it doesn't really matter with these levels because I don't know what happened, but the level design in this game just does not feel right. The levels are very drab, and it seems like it shouldn't be like that. Like, you could take a really interesting level idea or concept and make it a fun level to skate on. Like, Foundry and Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, the idea, you're skating in like a welding factory. It wouldn't sound like it'd be an interesting idea for a level to skate on, but it ends up being a fan favorite and is a very fun map to actually skate on. So, something with the level design is just very bland. Like, you really forget some of these levels. They're very forgetful in their design. And they really should have put more work into them because they are very small, contained maps. There's very few elements of exploration. And, oh, I gotta mention this right now. Look at this option screen. Look how bare bones it is. Remember in the old Pro Skaters and Tony Hawk's where they had all these sub options and you could change the soundtrack and see what song's playing, and you could change the audio and pick between genres? Yeah, that's all gone. And that's the option screen for the entire game. I actually commented that it looks so bare bones, it looks like it's unfinished, like a placeholder. And you know what? That's what this entire game pretty much is. It's a placeholder because things don't feel complete. This game, to me, truly feels like an incomplete game. It feels rushed. It feels like there should have been more work to it. Like, if they spent another few months on the game ironing out this stuff, they could have made a decent game. But because they rushed it out, which is what I'm hoping, if they actually felt this game was complete, then I am just... ugh. And I guess now I can transition into the graphics and sound, as you will be hearing quite a lot of it throughout your maybe 30 minutes of playtime, depending on who you are. So, graphics, not very good. And they're really not good for a PS4 game. You really would expect better for the supposed current gen version of Tony Hawk. Like, you expect it to look really good. But it really looks lackluster. It really looks like a launch PS3 game. And I've heard people say, like, oh, it looks like a PS2 game, but it's like, hey, stop making fun of the PS2. I've seen PS2 games that look a bit better. Like, some of the character models in Pro Skater 3 looked better. And I'm not even joking, like, some models actually do look better. Because what they went for this cel-shaded style, and it doesn't really work in this. It just looks off. Like, it doesn't fit the style. It's like two different styles are clashing between each other. Like, if they had gone for like a different approach to it for both aspects, it could have worked, but it still just doesn't look that good to me personally. And I'm not like a graphics, so I really could care less about that. Like, I still play PS2, I still play N64, like graphics don't really bother me. Like, I'll play any game regardless of graphics, but at a certain point, you really expect better. Like, I kind of expected a bit better for this. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I'm not too fond of the graphics. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. Oh, by far, it's not the worst, but it definitely needs work. Now, onto the soundtrack. This is where it's going to get very subjective, because I know there are probably some songs on here that many people probably will like, but for me personally, I did not like pretty much all the songs. There may be about maybe one or two songs I thought kind of it's okay, but for the most part, I wasn't really feeling this soundtrack, especially compared to the originals. But that's very hard. You can't really talk, because those soundtracks were fantastic. They had an amazing just track list of songs and artists. So I really can't compare it to that, because that's very high standards. But soundtrack I wasn't very fond of. You can give it a listen if you want. I think it's on YouTube and whatnot. But I wasn't very fond of it. I didn't like it at all. And, ooh, there's something I almost forgot, and I'm happy I didn't, because this is a huge breaker for me. Two things, actually. One, this game is very, very glitchy. And at times, you will just randomly crash and bail for no apparent reason. So you'll be grinding on a rail, and Tony will just fly for no reason. Like, I think I have a clip coming up right now. Like, look at that. Like, there's no reason for that. I didn't do anything that would launch him that far. Like, this game is glitchy, to say the least. Now, I played this later in October, so I feel a few patches might have come out to fix some of these, because I remember seeing launch day, this game was just broken. People were flying through walls. The game's graphics weren't loading. The textures weren't loading, and the textures still don't load in. Because when I first played it, textures weren't loading in for a few minutes. But it's still glitchy. Don't get me wrong, it's still glitchy, and I still have glitches every once in a while. But it's not to the point it was. So at least they went and fixed it. But that glitch where you just start failing randomly, that's still there, and I really hope they ever fix that. But look at this! I'm floating! Like, and I looked at the QA because I was curious. I wanted to see who tested this game, and it only had 3 testers, including Tony Hawk. Like, Hawk himself played this. Like, how come he didn't speak up? Like, or maybe he did and they just didn't get around to fixing it, because he of all people would know how to Tony Hawk game plays. They're his games! And, oh, I could just keep going on, like, oh, I almost forgot this. The frame rate. This game's frame rate is so inconsistent. You will drop frame rate every time you get near something that's just going crazy. The second level, I think Bonfire Park, there's this section in the level, like it's Fire Tiki, and it just does not want to work right. Anytime you get even a fraction near, you don't even have to be looking at it, your game will drop. And even then, it doesn't matter. You will just randomly be playing, and the frame rate will just drop, and it's so inconsistent that it's kind of disorienting, and it just really throws you off. So if you're like mid-combo, and the frame rate decides to drop, it really messes you up, and you really can't get back into that flow of things. And how hard is it to keep the frame rate steady? I guess PS4, like, I know that it's not the strongest, like, thing, like, but at this point, like, keep it a steady frame rate. Like, it's never really, like, working right. It always feels sluggish. It's always dropping. It's so inconsistent that you really can't get a good feel of everything in it. Oh, man, I talked about almost everything. There's still more stuff I could talk about, but I'm gonna have to end it off soon. Oh, so Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5. A game that I actually, when I first heard the announcement, I was actually very excited about it. I was actually happy to see another Tony Hawk game. Like, it had been a while since we had seen a true Tony Hawk game come out, so seeing that the series was coming back made me happy, but over time, my expectations just kept dropping and dropping and dropping. And this game is actually quite sad, because this is actually probably going to be the final Pro Skater game that we ever played. Because Activision's contract with Tony Hawk ends at the end of 2015, so this is technically the final Pro Skater game. And it's quite sad, because I grew up playing the series, and it's sad to see this is the final game we'll ever get for this game. Like, I really would have loved to see a return to the series, like an actual return to Tony Hawk, and to see it actually be back to like a new generation. Because I know there are certain people out there, this is probably their first Tony Hawk game, and it's probably left a bad taste in their mouth. They might not want to play another one, so they actually made a Tony Hawk 6, and it actually ended up being good. Most people probably won't go check it out, because this game left a bad taste in their mouth. And I really don't know who to put the blame on. It's kind of a mix of both parties. It's a mix of Robomoto and Activision. I'd say more Activision, because they were the ones that decided to probably rush this game out. Like I'm sure Robomoto probably were put under some kind of like mode, like, hey, hurry the game up. We want to get it out before 2015, so don't do anything else with this. So, just it's actually quite sad for me because I really would have loved to see a great Tony Hawk game because the past few games really have not been good, and I really would have loved to see an honest, like actually good, like current gen Tony Hawk game. But anyways, would I recommend this game to anybody? No, I would not recommend it to a casual fan of the series. I wouldn't recommend it to a hardcore fan, and I would not recommend it to anyone who is even interested of playing the game. What I would recommend is go pick up a copy of the Pro Skater games. They are still fantastic to play, and they are still fun. And I guess that's about it. Kind of ends on a little somber note. But this is Gaming with Class, and this game really disappointed me. Have a good day.